Some of the classrooms we see across the country look like they did 100 years ago. You know, single face-forward type table arrangements or single tablet arm chairs facing forward.
I think for a professor in a normal classroom, they're kind of like a lion in a cage at the zoo. They have their 6 feet to walk back and forth and teach to these people that are just looking at them.
The traditional classrooms that I've taught in are set up almost the same way. You know, there's a front of the room, there's the technology that shoots the images up to the front of the room, there's a podium that almost adds to a barrier between myself and the students.
All you do is take notes. All you do is it's writing on the board, and then you just copy down what he does. And a lot of times he's 2 steps ahead of you, and you're still trying to write down what he wrote so that you can bring it home and look at it.
I know in a normal classroom, I dread having group projects because you don't know the people that you're with, you don't feel comfortable with them, and it's really hard to actually change into groups.
I mean, look at the students. The students are multitasking. The classrooms are not.
All of the advances that have been made with respect to understanding how the brain works, how people learn, how technology can be incorporated into the classroom have not really affected the design of the classroom.
What we hear from corporate America today is that they need employees. They can innovate, they can solve problems in a group setting. So what corporate America is asking higher ed today is to create that skill, to help people learn that skill in class. But they can't do that in an environment that's only set up for lecture. We have to support them by giving them environments that they can work in groups and learn that process.
As with all of our research, we follow a very rigorous process that has 6 distinct phases. Understand, observe, synthesize, realize, prototype, and measure.
The process we went through was really going out to educational environments and doing a lot of observation. Video ethnography, photographs, student interviews, faculty interviews. You know, what's working inside classrooms these days and what's not.
We started to begin to think about the requirements for how this idea would play out in real life. Our overarching goals were to allow active engagement and participation of the professor, for the professor to move around, active engagement of the students as they broke up into small collaborative groups, the ability for students to display their thinking, the ability for that thinking to be persistent over time, and to be recalled from one class session to the other.
The research team passed design principles to us, and we designed the LearnLab with the understanding that the classroom needs support single and multi-mode teaching.
You've got this point in time where you go from kind of a lecture mode or a discussion and you want to get them into engaging in small teams. In a traditional classroom, it's just chaos, trying to move stuff around and then having to move back. And you lose the whole flavor or the flow of that.
We did a lot of work in understanding how the brain works, how people learn, all the different learning theories and pedagogy styles. People don't all learn in the same way. So some folks are visual learners, some folks are auditory learners, some folks like me learn by writing. So it was important for us to create an environment that would accommodate all of those learning styles.
That we took that learning, that knowledge, those ideas, and then put that into this new LearnLab, and then tried it with real students from a local university to see what would happen.
I've had a great opportunity with being able to teach this same course, 11 semesters in a traditional classroom with the rows, the chairs, the single projection up front. Coming into this classroom going, is this stuff really going to, enhance what I'm trying to do in my class, or is it going to be a deterrent?
When I first walked in, there was so much going on, there was just so much stuff. I was just like, oh wow, this is going to be interesting. And it was kind of overwhelming. Not intimidating, but overwhelming. And then Rob turned everything on, and it was just like, wow, this is going to be amazing.
There's a lot of thought that went into the design of the LearnLab, all based on user-centered research designed to accommodate multiple learning styles in one setting. From the way the chairs swivel, to the orientation of the tables, to the low-tech whiteboards that hang on the wall, to the high-tech products which allow you to take the notes from the classroom and that very day email them to the students.
One of the things that I guess really brought itself out in this learning lab environment was not just any one thing, but it was how different things worked together and just created this flow that was wonderful.
I think what makes the LearnLab work, it's really integration of technology, of furniture, and of architecture products. It's not just the technology, It's not just the raised floor, it's not just the tables, it's the integration of all that.
The clusters of the furniture in allowing the small groups to take place and interact. The ability of having the same content in multiple places in the room, and something as little as a chair that swivels.
Having a swivel chair, I mean, that seems like such a simple concept, but there's no front of the classroom. There's 3 different places to look. There's different things going on. If somebody's talking on the other side of the room, I just have to turn my chair and I can see them.
The information in the LearnLab is projected on 3 separate screens. We've triangulated the projection of information to allow the students to view the information as well as have eye contact with other students in the class.
It really hit me how powerful it was to have an environment that let me go anywhere in the classroom, or any student to go anywhere in the classroom, where there wasn't this hierarchy of me feeling like I was in the front of the room, going back to the layers of who was in the back of the room.
In here, I felt like because we could move around and he was able to look at all of us and we were all able to see him even, that really helped in group discussion.
The really exciting thing about how the LearnLab actually worked with real students, real faculty, was that the switch between lecture to group work or project work was just seamless. There was no downtime. There was no transition time of moving the tables and chairs and going through all of that. It was just, we're in a lecture mode, let's switch to group or project work, and the transition was that fast.
You could stay in here and work in a group, or you could go into one of the other rooms. But you could take the huddle boards or use the copy cam, and you could always bring back what you worked on and build on it as a class. So it wasn't just presenting to the class what you talked about with your group, but it was presenting to the class and then having input and adding on to it, and the classroom really lent itself to that.
The students, at least about half of them, stopped taking notes because they knew that they were going to get this aggregate of information from that class on that night, complete with everybody's bad penmanship and spelling, but that was kind of part of the whole experience on that given evening. And when the ones that stopped taking notes did that, they started to engage and connect even more in the discussions that took place. It was pretty cool to see it all come together.
If you wanted to take notes, go for it. If you didn't want to take notes, you didn't have to. Or you could print them offline and bring them in if you wanted to add stuff to it, but you really didn't have to, because every day it would be on the copy cam, and again it would come in your email.
We would walk in and the screens would be on and we would know, okay, so this is what we're going to be doing. And we were able to just pick right up, and the momentum went from one class period to the next.
When the information is persistent, when it can be recalled, it helps to trigger the student's memory about what was learned, and it also helps them to make connections.
If I was going to bring students into an environment, I had better let them experience an engaging, active learning experience. Otherwise, why bring them in?
If I knew that I was going to have almost every class in the LearnLab, even if I just knew I was going to have 1 out of the 6 that I take, I would be thrilled.
What we've heard from educators across the country is they want their students to think outside of the box. Traditionally, classrooms have been designed as a box, so it's very difficult for students to think in creative ways in this box that has been created for them. So what we want to do with LearnLab is create a different type of learning environment that allows them to be creative, collaborative, and engage with others in the classroom.